What kind of person murders almost their entire family just to stay in power? Today, we're looking at one of the darkest stories in the Bible. A woman who almost wiped out the royal line of David, the only woman who ever ruled over Judah. Her name was Athaliah. This isn't a fairy tale, it's political murder, it's spiritual war, and it came within one hidden baby of erasing the promise God made to David. Let's walk through what actually happened and why it still matters. Athaliah doesn't show up out of nowhere. She's born into one of the most infamous families in Scripture, the House of Omri, the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel. Most traditions describe her as the daughter of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. So imagine her childhood. She grows up in Samaria. She watches her parents use power without fear of God. She sees Baal worship promoted. She sees prophets of the Lord opposed and killed. This is her normal. Then something huge happens politically. To cement an alliance between the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, Athaliah is married off to Jehoram, the son of King Jehoshaphat of Judah. On paper, it looks like smart diplomacy. Two kingdoms, one family, stronger together. But spiritually, it's a disaster. 2 Kings tells us that Jehoram walked in the ways of the kings of Israel as the house of Ahab had done. Why? Because he was married into Ahab's house. In simple terms, Athaliah brings her family's gods and her family's politics into the house of David. The dynasty of Omri and the dynasty of David are now in bed together, and Baal is being welcomed into Jerusalem. After Jehoshaphat dies, Jehoram becomes king of Judah. His reign is ugly. He kills off some of his own brothers. Idolatry spreads. Judgment begins to fall. When Jehoram dies, Athaliah's son, Ahaziah, becomes king. Ahaziah doesn't last long. He reigns for only 1 year. At this time, up north, God raises up a military commander named Jehu to wipe out the corrupt Omri dynasty in Israel. Jehu kills Joram, king of Israel. In the chaos, he also kills Ahaziah, king of Judah, because Ahaziah is tied to the same wicked house. So in a short span, Athaliah loses her husband and then her son. Her family's political power is collapsing in the north under Jehu. And now, in Judah, the throne is suddenly empty. This is the moment everything turns. 2 Kings chapter 11, verse 1 says this: When Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal heirs. Those 10 words describe one of the most chilling acts in the Old Testament. Athaliah moves fast. She orders the slaughter of the seed royal in Judah. That means the male descendants of David who could claim the throne. Not just distant cousins, her own grandchildren. Why would she do that? Politically, it makes cold sense. If every other potential heir is dead, she can rule as queen without rival. Her Omride side gains control of Judah after losing Israel. There is no Davidic male left to challenge her. Spiritually, it's even darker. God had promised David an enduring line. From David's descendants would come the Messiah. Athaliah's purge is not just family murder. It is an attempt to cut off the line God chose. From a human perspective, it almost works, but God has already put quiet, courageous people in place. In the middle of this bloodbath, one woman refuses to play along. Her name is Jehosheba, or Jehoshabeth. She is a daughter of King Jehoram, a sister of Ahaziah, and she is married to Jehoiada, the high priest. When Athaliah's order goes out, Jehosheba acts. She takes one of the king's infant sons, a baby named son Joash, along with his nurse, and hides them away. 2 Kings says she hid him in a bedroom. 2 Chronicles tells us he is then kept hidden in the temple of the Lord. While Athaliah is killing royal boys to secure her throne, Jehosheba is smuggling one tiny heir to safety. No army, no title, no speech, just quiet, desperate courage. And for the next 6 years, while Athaliah reigns in the palace, Joash lives in hiding in the house of God, raised under the protection and influence of the high priest. To the people watching the throne, it looks like Athaliah won. The Davidic line appears to be gone. Baal's followers hold the city, but in the shadows of the temple, God has preserved one child. Athaliah sits on the throne for 6 years. She is the only woman to rule Judah or Israel as monarch. This is not a ceremonial position. She is queen, in fact, not just in name. Under her regime, Baal worship is strengthened in Jerusalem. Later in Chronicles, we're told that the sons of Athaliah broke into the house of God and used holy things for Baal. So during her reign, there are at least 3 levels of corruption: political corruption, a stolen throne; family corruption, a queen who murdered the royal heirs; spiritual corruption, the temple of the Lord plundered for idol worship. Everything that was supposed to be safe, family, kingdom, temple, is under attack. Still, year after year, God does not immediately strike her down. There's no fire from heaven, no plague targeting the palace. From the outside, evil looks secure. But in the 7th year, a different kind of plan is ready. The high priest, Jehoiada, has been waiting and watching. He's seen Joash grow. He knows the child is the rightful king, a living sign that God's promise to David is not dead. So Jehoiada decides it is time. He makes a covenant with key military leaders and the Levites. He chooses the Sabbath for the operation because guard rotations on that day allow extra soldiers at the temple without raising suspicion. His plan is simple and brilliant. They will bring out Joash at the temple, crown him publicly, and surround him with armed support before Athaliah can react. On the appointed day, the moment comes. Jehoiada brings out the 7-year-old Joash. They put the crown on his head. They hand him a copy of the covenant. They anoint him, and they proclaim, "Long live the king!" Trumpets blast. People shout. The courtyard of the temple erupts. For 6 years, people have lived under the rule of a murderous usurper. Now, suddenly, there is a boy standing by the pillar, crowned as the son of David. The sound reaches the palace. Athaliah hears the noise and rushes to the temple to see what's happening. The Bible gives us one of the most ironic moments in the story. Athaliah arrives at the temple and sees Joash standing by the pillar, dressed as king, surrounded by guards and trumpeters, with the people rejoicing. And she cries out, "Treason! Treason!" A woman who murdered the royal heirs. A woman who seized a throne that was not hers. A woman who promoted a rival god in the city of David. She is now screaming, "Treason!" at those restoring the rightful king. Jehoiada will not let her die at the altar. He orders the officers to take her out of the temple grounds and kill her where the horses enter the palace. There, at the horse gate, Athaliah is executed. With her death, the spell breaks. The text says, "All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, because Athaliah had been slain with the sword." But the story doesn't end with her execution. Jehoiada knows this is not just about politics, it's about worship and covenant. So he leads the people in a public recommitment. He makes a covenant between the Lord, the king, and the people, that they will be the Lord's people again. Then they turn and march to the temple of Baal in Jerusalem. They tear it down. They smash the altars. They break the idols in pieces. They kill Baal's priest. After that, Jehoiada stations guards at the house of the Lord, re-establishing its proper place at the center of Judah's life. Finally, they bring Joash to the palace. He sits on the royal throne, and the people rejoice. For a moment, everything is back in alignment. The son of David on David's throne, the temple restored, the covenant renewed, the usurper removed. From the Bible's point of view, this is not just one regime change among many. It is the rescue of the Davidic line and the reassertion of God's rule in Jerusalem. So what do we do with this story? Let's draw out a few key truths. First, this is an assault on the promise of God. God had promised David that his line would endure. Through that line, blessing would come to the nations. Athaliah's massacre is a direct attack on that promise. From a human angle, she almost succeeds. If Joash dies, the line is broken. No heir of David sits on the throne. The story of Scripture, as we know it, ends in that dark room. But God works through one woman's courage and one priest's faithfulness. In their hands, Joash is hidden. The line is preserved. The promise survives. Second, Athaliah's rule reminds us that evil can look stable for a time. For 6 years, she sits on the throne. Baal worship grows. The temple is abused. You can imagine faithful people in Judah thinking, did God abandon us? Did his promise fail? Did wickedness really win? They don't know that inside the temple, the next king is learning to walk. This is what we often forget. While we stare at the throne, God may be working in a side room. While we fixate on the loudest evil, God may be quietly preparing an answer that no one can touch. Third, we see the power of sound, quiet faithfulness. Athaliah is loud. She moves with soldiers and blood. Jehosheba and Jehoiada work in whispers and hidden rooms. She slaughters, they save. She tears down, they nurture. She rules by fear, they act in faith. Humanly speaking, the survival of the Davidic line hangs on one woman risking her life to protect a baby, and one priest willing to wait, plan, and move in God's timing. When you feel small, remember this story. God has a long track record of working through people the world barely mentions. Finally, Athaliah's life shows where unchecked power and idolatry lead. She is not a cartoon villain. She is what happens when power is more important than people. Politics is more important than covenant. Idols are more important than the living God. You may never sit on a throne or order anyone's death, but the same temptations live in smaller form in all of us, to treat people as expendable, to protect our position at any cost, to bring our own idols into the house that belongs to God. Athaliah's downfall is a warning. God is patient, but he is not indifferent. There comes a point when he exposes what's been hidden and restores what seemed forgotten. So when you hear the name Athaliah, don't just think evil queen. See the whole picture. A corrupt dynasty trying to cling to power. A nearly successful attempt to erase the line of David. A baby hidden in the temple. A priest and his wife quietly resisting the darkness. a 7-year-old boy crowned in the house of God. A false queen screaming, "Treason!" At the moment, her own treachery is exposed. And a God who keeps his promises even when it looks like they've been buried. Evil can sit on the throne for a while, but it cannot sit there forever. God's purposes may be hidden, but they are never absent. His covenant may look fragile, but it does not break. And often, the future of his story hangs on the faithfulness of people the world barely sees. In the end, Athaliah's reign of terror passes. The line of David continues. And generations later, another child will be born in a very unlikely place, under another ruthless regime, to fulfill the promise once and for all. God is still that faithful. And no throne on earth, however ruthless, can change what he has spoken.